Hey guys, tonight we begin not with a tale of ancient Venice or royal courts, but with something far more electric and devastating. Love and ambition in the heart of 1970s disco-era New York. Because believe it or not, Shakespeare's darkest tragedy of jealousy and betrayal fits perfectly into a world of vinyl records, studio politics, and neon-lit dreams. From gold records and velvet suits to the poison of whispered lies, this story reminds us that human nature, with all its beauty and darkness, never really changes, no matter what decade we're living in. So, before you settle in, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together, back to the autumn of 1975, where ambition, love, and manipulation collide in the recording studios of Manhattan. The year is 1975, and New York City pulses with the electric heartbeat of a new sound. Neon lights blaze across Times Square, reflecting off chrome and glass, while beneath the glittering surface, in smoky studios and velvet-draped nightclubs, a revolution in music is being born. This is the era of soul, of funk, of disco fever spreading like wildfire through the boroughs. And at the center of this whirlwind stands Golden Records, a towering monument of steel and ambition on West 57th Street, where fortunes are made and legends are created. Inside the building's penthouse executive suite, floor-to-ceiling windows frame the Manhattan skyline at twilight. The office is a shrine to success. Gold and platinum records line the wood-paneled walls, their surfaces catching the amber glow of a massive crystal chandelier. Behind an enormous mahogany desk sits Desmond White, founder and president of Golden Records, a silver-haired man in his 60s wearing an impeccable three-piece suit, his face weathered by decades of deals and decisions. He built this empire from nothing, and every inch of this room announces his power. But tonight, Desmond's usual confidence wavers. Standing before him, commanding the room with quiet intensity, is Otis O.J. Johnson, the man who changed everything. O.J. is 42 years old, tall and broad-shouldered, his dark skin gleaming in the low light. He wears a burgundy velvet suit with wide lapels, a silk shirt open at the collar, and around his neck hangs a single gold chain. His hair is cropped close, his beard neatly trimmed, and his eyes hold the wisdom of a man who has seen both the depths and heights of life. There's something magnetic about him, a gravity that draws every eye in any room he enters. O.J. stands with his hands clasped behind his back, his voice deep and measured as he speaks about the new album they're producing, about the direction of the label, about the future he sees unfolding. Desmond listens, nodding slowly, because 6 months ago he made the most controversial decision of his career. He promoted this black man, this outsider who grew up in the projects of Brooklyn, to senior vice president of A&R, making O.J. the most powerful producer in the building, the industry whispered. The old guard protested. But the numbers don't lie, every artist O.J. touches turns to gold. Across town, in a cramped apartment in Hell's Kitchen, a different scene unfolds. The room is thick with cigarette smoke and resentment. Ian Roth sits on a worn leather couch, his pale face illuminated by the blue flicker of a television set playing the evening news with the sound turned low. He's 38, lean and wiry, with dark hair slicked back and sharp features that seem perpetually set in a calculating expression. He wears a polyester shirt with bold geometric patterns, the sleeves rolled up, and as he takes a long drag from his cigarette, his free hand drums restlessly against his knee. Ian has worked at Golden Records for 12 years, climbing from the mailroom to junior producer to O.J. Right hand, always in the shadows, always doing the dirty work, always loyal. When the senior VP position opened up, Ian assumed it was finally his time. He had the experience, the connections, the hunger, but Desmond and O.J. chose someone else, Cash Morrison, a golden boy just 30 years old, with a smile that could charm snakes and a talent for spotting hits that bordered on supernatural. Sitting across from Ian, nursing a beer, is Rodney White, Desmond's son, a spoiled, soft-bellied man of 35 who fancies himself a producer but mostly coasts on his father's name. Rodney's face is flushed with alcohol and indignation as he listens to Ian speak in low, venomous tones. "You see how he parades around that office like he owns it," Ian says, his voice smooth as oil. "Oh, Jay, this. Oh, Jay, that. Your father acts like the man walks on water. And Cash Morrison? Don't get me started on that pretty boy. 3 years at the label, and he's already senior VP. Where's the justice in that?" Rodney grunts agreement, taking another swig from his bottle. Ian continues, leaning forward, his eyes gleaming with something dark and purposeful. "But that's not even the worst of it, my friend. You know where O.J. was last night, while we were all busting our asses finishing the Velvet Soul sessions?" Rodney shakes his head, his expression dull and waiting. "He was at City Hall," Ian says, letting the words hang in the smoke-filled air. "With your sister." The beer bottle stops halfway to Rodney's lips. His bloodshot eyes widen. "What are you talking about?" "Delia?" "Delia White and Otis Johnson." Ian pronounces each syllable with deliberate emphasis. "Married. I saw the certificate myself. I have a friend in the clerk's office. Your father's precious daughter, the one he's protected like fine china her whole life, has gone and married a man twice her age, and not just any man." The revelation hits Rodney like a physical blow. His face drains of color, then flushes deep red as the implications sink in. Delia, his baby sister, 23 years old with honey blonde hair and eyes like summer sky, the apple of their father's eye, has secretly married the most prominent black man in the music industry. In 1975 New York, such unions are legal but far from socially acceptable, especially in the rarefied circles of their world. Ian watches Rodney's reaction, with the satisfaction of a chess master executing a perfect opening gambit. He stubs out his cigarette in a glass ashtray overflowing with butts, and leans back into the couch cushions, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Can you imagine what this will do to your father when he finds out? The man who built golden records on traditional values, on respectability, his daughter, his precious little girl, sneaking around behind his back with a man who could be her father." Ian shakes his head with false sympathy. "And the timing couldn't be worse. The board meetings next week, they're already questioning some of Desmond's recent decisions, especially promoting O.J. so quickly. This scandal could destroy everything." But while Ian plants seeds of discord in Hell's Kitchen, across the city in Greenwich Village, a different truth unfolds. In a cozy bistro with exposed brick walls and candlelit tables, Delia White, now Delia Johnson, sits across from her new husband, her face glowing with happiness that seems to illuminate the entire restaurant. She wears a flowing peasant dress in deep emerald, her long hair cascading over her shoulders, and when she laughs at something, O.J. says, the sound is like silver bells chiming in the evening air. O.J. reaches across the small table and takes her delicate hand in his large, powerful one. The gold wedding band on his finger catches the candlelight as he speaks, his voice tender and protective. "Delia, my love, I know this won't be easy. The industry, your father's world, they're not ready for us. But I promise you, I'll spend every day proving myself worthy of your trust." Delia's eyes sparkle with unshed tears of joy. "Otis, you don't understand. You've already proven everything. When I listen to the music you create, when I see how you treat your artists, how you fight for what's right, you're the most honorable man I've ever known. My father taught me to recognize integrity, and you have it in abundance." She pauses, looking down at their intertwined fingers. "I know Daddy will be shocked at first. He's old-fashioned, set in his ways. But when he sees how much we love each other, When he realizes that you're the same man he trusted with his entire company, he'll understand. O.J. lifts their joined hands and kisses her knuckles softly. Your optimism gives me strength, baby. But I lived through enough to know that love doesn't always conquer all. Some people, they'll see me as just another black man who reached too high, took something that wasn't his to take. Then they're fools. Delia declares with fierce conviction. You didn't take anything. I chose you, just as you chose me. And anyone who can't see the beauty in that choice isn't worth our concern. Meanwhile, 20 blocks north at the famous Studio 54, the nightclub that epitomizes 70s excess and glamour, another key figure in this unfolding drama holds court. Cash Morrison stands near the bar, a vision of 70s masculine perfection. At 30, he's tall and lean with sandy brown hair that falls in perfect waves around his face, wearing a white suit that seems to glow under the club's pulsing lights. His smile is devastating, his laugh infectious, and he's surrounded by a circle of admirers, models, actors, musicians, and socialites all drawn to his magnetic charm. Cash raises a glass of champagne to toast the success of the latest album he produced, Midnight Passion, by the sultry R&B sensation Velvet Moon. The album is already climbing the charts, and industry insiders are calling it a masterpiece of production. But Cash deflects the praise with characteristic humility. The real genius behind this sound is O.J. Johnson, he announces to the glittering crowd. That man taught me everything I know about capturing the soul of music and putting it on vinyl. When Golden Records took a chance on a kid from Detroit with more dreams than experience, O.J. believed in me. He's not just my mentor, he's my friend. The crowd murmurs approvingly, but in the shadows near the club's entrance, a figure watches with different eyes. Ian Roth has followed Cash here, nursing a single scotch while observing his rival's easy success, his natural charisma, the way people gravitate toward him like moths to flame. Ian memorizes every gesture, every laugh, every interaction, filing them away for future use. As the night deepens and the disco ball scatters rainbow fragments across the dance floor, where bodies move to the hypnotic pulse of Love Train by the OJs, Ian formulates his plan. He knows people's weaknesses, their secrets, their fears. Desmond White values reputation above all else. O.J. Johnson, despite his success, still carries the insecurities of a man who faced countless closed doors because of his race. Cash Morrison, for all his charm, is young and impressionable, trusting to a fault. And Delia, sweet, naive Delia, she believes in fairy tales, in the power of love to overcome any obstacle. Ian smiles in the darkness, already seeing the threads he'll weave to destroy them all. The next morning arrives gray and drizzling. Manhattan's streets slick with rain that reflects the neon signs and yellow taxi lights in wavering pools of color. Inside Golden Records' executive suite, Desmond White sits behind his massive desk, reviewing quarterly reports when his secretary's voice crackles through the intercom. Mr. White, your son Rodney is here to see you. He says it's urgent. Desmond glances at his gold Rolex, 8:30 in the morning, far too early for Rodney's usual appearances. Send him in. Rodney enters looking disheveled, his eyes bloodshot and wild, still wearing yesterday's clothes. He closes the door behind him and stands there, swaying slightly, reeking of alcohol and cigarettes. Desmond's face hardens with disappointment and concern. Good God, Rodney, you look terrible. Are you drunk? It's not even 9 o'clock. Dad, we need to talk. Rodney's voice is thick and urgent. About Delia. About what she's done. Desmond sets down his reading glasses and leans back in his leather chair, suddenly alert. What about your sister? She's been staying with that friend from college, working on her photography portfolio. She's not staying with any friend. Rodney spits, collapsing into one of the chairs across from his father's desk. She got married, Dad, 3 days ago. City Hall. I've seen the certificate. The words hang in the air like smoke from a discharged gun. Desmond's face goes through a series of changes, confusion, disbelief. then a dawning horror as the implications begin to register. Married? That's impossible. Delia would never, she would have told us. Asked for our blessing. Not for this marriage, Rodney continues, his voice gaining momentum. Not when she knew what you'd say. Not when she knew it would destroy everything you've built. What are you talking about? Who did she marry? Rodney takes a shuddering breath, savoring this moment of power over his father. Otis Johnson, your golden boy, your senior vice president, the man you trust with your life's work. The color drains from Desmond's face as if someone pulled a plug. He grips the arms of his chair, his knuckles turning white. For a long moment, the only sound is the rain pattering against the windows and the distant hum of traffic 40 floors below. That's not possible, Desmond whispers, but his voice lacks conviction. Deep down, he's already connecting the dots. Delia's recent absences, her mysterious happiness. Oh, Jay's subtle changes in demeanor, the way they both seemed to glow with some inner secret during last week's company dinner. At that exact moment, as if summoned by fate's cruel sense of timing, O.J. enters the outer office. Through the glass walls, they can see him greeting Desmond's secretary with his usual warm smile, checking his appointment book, looking every inch the successful executive in his perfectly tailored charcoal suit. There he is, Rodney hisses. Your protege. The man you chose over your own son. Look at him, Dad, really look at him. He seduced your daughter, stole her away from everything she's known, everything she was raised to be. Desmond stands slowly, his legs unsteady, and moves to the window overlooking the recording studios below. He can see the morning shift arriving engineers, session musicians, backup singers, all the talented people who make the magic happen. For 30 years, he's built this empire on merit, on recognizing talent regardless of where it came from. O.J. was his crowning achievement in that philosophy. A man whose musical genius transcended every barrier the industry tried to erect. But now, as he watches O.J. settle into his office across the hall, Desmond feels something darker taking root in his chest. This isn't about business anymore. This is about his daughter, his precious Delia, and the man who took her without even the courtesy of asking permission. Down in Studio B, Cash Morrison arrives early for a session with Honey Divine, a rising disco singer whose voice can shatter crystal and heal hearts in the same breath. He's reviewing arrangements when Ian appears in the doorway, carrying 2 cups of coffee and wearing an expression of careful concern. Cash, my friend, you look troubled. Everything all right? Cash looks up gratefully, accepting the coffee. Just some family drama back in Detroit. My mom's worried about my sister dating some guy she doesn't approve of. You know how it is. Ian sits on a nearby stool, stirring his coffee thoughtfully. Families can be complicated, especially when it comes to matters of the heart. Speaking of which, have you heard the news about O.J.? What news? Cash's attention sharpens. He respects O.J. enormously, considers him both mentor and friend. Ian glances around conspiratorially, then leans closer. Well, I probably shouldn't say anything, but since you're so close to him, he's married Delia White, Desmond's daughter. They did it in secret 3 days ago. Cash nearly drops his coffee cup. Are you serious? Oh, Jay, and Delia. But she's so young, and he never mentioned. That's what worries me. Ian continues smoothly. A man keeps something that important secret from his closest friends. It makes you wonder what else he might be hiding. I mean, I'm happy for him if he's happy, but the whole thing feels sudden, impulsive, not like the O.J. we know. Cash frowns, processing this information. He's always prided himself on reading people well, but he completely missed this. What does it say about his judgment? What does it say about O.J.'s trust in him? Above them all, on the 40th floor, Desmond White makes a decision that will set the wheels of tragedy in motion. He picks up his phone and dials O.J.'s extension. Otis, I need to see you in my office. Now. The elevator ride to the penthouse feels eternal. O.J. stands alone in the mirrored box, watching the floor numbers climb while his reflection multiplies infinitely around him. 42-year-old black man in a perfect suit, wedding ring catching the fluorescent light, carrying himself with the quiet dignity that has opened every door in his remarkable career. But something in Desmond's voice on the phone, a coldness he's never heard before, sends ice through his veins. The elevator chimes softly, doors sliding open to reveal Desmond's secretary, Margaret, a silver-haired woman who's worked for Golden Records since its founding. Usually she greets O.J. with warm smiles and friendly chatter about her grandchildren. Today she won't meet his eyes, her fingers nervously shuffling papers on her pristine desk. "He's waiting for you, Mr. Johnson," she whispers, her voice barely audible above the air conditioning's gentle hum. O.J. crosses the plush carpet toward the executive suite, his footsteps muffled, but his heart pounding like a bass drum in his chest. Through the glass walls, he can see Desmond standing with his back turned, staring out at the Manhattan skyline where storm clouds are gathering, turning the morning light gray and ominous. He knocks twice and enters without waiting for permission, a privilege earned through years of mutual respect and shared success. "Desmond, you wanted to see me?" Desmond doesn't turn around immediately. When he finally does, his face is a mask of controlled fury, his usually warm brown eyes now hard as marble. On his desk, spread like evidence at a crime scene, are several documents, a marriage certificate, photographs, and what appears to be a private investigator's report. "Otis Johnson," Desmond says slowly, each syllable weighted with betrayal. "The man I trusted with my life's work, the man I defended when the board questioned whether we were moving too fast, promoting you too quickly. The man who looked me in the eye every day for 6 months while he was secretly seducing my daughter." O.J.'s shoulders straighten, his voice remaining calm despite the accusation. "Desmond, if this is about Delia and me, then you deserve an explanation. I should have come to you first, asked for your blessing. But what we have isn't some casual affair. Don't you dare speak her name in my presence." Desmond's composure cracks, his voice rising to fill the enormous office. A 23-year-old girl, innocent, sheltered, raised to believe in fairy tales and happy endings. And you, a man old enough to be her father, with the wisdom and experience to know better, you took advantage of her trust, her naivety. "That's not how it happened," O.J. responds, stepping closer to the desk. "Delia pursued me, if you must know the truth. She came to my office, invited herself to recording sessions, asked me to dinner. I resisted for months because I knew how it would look, what people would say. But she's not the child you think she is, Desmond. She's a grown woman with her own mind, her own desires." Desmond picks up one of the photographs, a candid shot of O.J. and Delia entering a restaurant, her hand in his, both of them laughing at some private joke. "Look at this picture and tell me what you see. A respected music executive and his boss's daughter, or a predator who used his position and influence to manipulate a young woman into his bed?" The words hit O.J. like physical blows. In all his years of fighting racism, of proving himself in boardrooms filled with skeptical white faces, he's never heard such venom directed at him personally. "You think that's what this is? You think I married Delia for some twisted power play?" "I think," Desmond says, moving around his desk to stand face to face with O.J., "that you saw an opportunity and you took it. My daughter, my legacy, my company all wrapped up in one convenient package. Marry the boss's daughter. Secure your position forever." The office door opens without warning, and Delia herself enters, her hair damp from the rain, wearing a flowing sundress that makes her look even younger than her 23 years. She stops short at the tension crackling in the air, her blue eyes moving between her father's furious face and her husband's wounded expression. "Daddy." Her voice is small, uncertain. "Margaret said you wanted to see me urgently." Desmond's anger transforms into something more complex when he sees his daughter hurt, disappointment, and a father's protective rage, all warring in his features. Delia, sweetheart, please sit down. We need to talk about the choices you've made. But O.J. steps protectively in front of his wife, his voice gaining strength. No, Desmond. You want to question my motives, my integrity. Fine. But you will not interrogate my wife like she's some criminal who needs to explain herself. Your wife? Desmond's laugh is bitter and harsh. 3 days married and already you're claiming ownership? This is exactly what I expected from a man who would sneak around behind my back, corrupting my daughter with promises and lies. Delia pushes past O.J., her own anger now flaring. Stop it, both of you! Daddy, how can you say such horrible things about Otis? He's the most honorable man I've ever known. And Otis, stop protecting me like I can't speak for myself. She turns to face her father directly, her chin raised with defiant dignity. I love him, Daddy. Not because he seduced me or tricked me or manipulated me, but because he sees me as a complete person, not just your sheltered little princess. He believes in my talent, my intelligence, my dreams. Desmond stares at his daughter as if seeing a stranger, this young woman who speaks with such conviction, such certainty. Delia, you don't understand the world we live in, the music industry, high society, the board of directors. They'll crucify both of you for this marriage. They'll say he married you for your inheritance, for your connections. They'll say you're rebelling against your upbringing by choosing the most inappropriate man possible. Then let them talk, Delia declares. Their opinions don't matter to me. Only yours does, Daddy. Only your blessing. The silence that follows Delia's declaration hangs heavy in the executive suite, broken only by the distant rumble of thunder outside. Desmond stares at his daughter, seeing in her face the same stubborn determination that built golden records from a 2-room office in Queens to a Manhattan empire. It's his own trait, reflected back at him with uncomfortable clarity. Your blessing, he repeats slowly, sinking into his chair as if the weight of the moment has physically drained him. Delia, do you have any idea what you're asking? This isn't just about love or personal happiness. This affects everything: the company, our family's reputation, your future. Oh. Jay removes his suit jacket and drapes it over a chair, a gesture that somehow makes him appear more vulnerable and human. Desmond, I know you're angry, and you have every right to be. I should have come to you first, explained my intentions, asked for your daughter's hand properly. But I was afraid. Afraid? Desmond's eyebrows arch with skepticism. The man who walked into my office 5 years ago demanding I listen to his demo tracks, who revolutionized our entire A&R department, who stands up to record executives twice his age, that man was afraid. Yes, O.J. admits, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. Afraid that you'd see exactly what you're seeing now. Not a man who loves your daughter, but a black man reaching above his station. Afraid that everything we've built together, all the respect and trust, would crumble the moment you realized I wanted to marry Delia. Delia reaches for her husband's hand, squeezing it tightly. Daddy, listen to what you're saying. You taught me that character matters more than anything else. You taught me to judge people by their actions, their integrity, their heart. Otis has proven all of those things to you 100 times over. Before Desmond can respond, his secretary's voice crackles through the intercom. Mr. White, I'm sorry to interrupt, but the board members are arriving for the emergency meeting. Emergency meeting. The words hit all three of them with the force of revelation. Desmond hadn't called any emergency board meeting, which means someone else had someone who knew about the marriage and decided to force a crisis. 20 floors below, in the Golden Records cafeteria, Ian Roth sits across from Cash Morrison, both men nursing cups of coffee that have long since gone cold. The cafeteria buzzes with whispered conversations, and nervous energy. Word has spread that something major is happening upstairs, and the entire building feels like a powder keg waiting for a spark. I still can't believe it, Cash says, running his hands through his sandy hair. O.J. married to Delia White. I mean, I'm happy for them, but the timing couldn't be worse. The board's already been questioning some of Desmond's decisions, and now this. Ian leans forward conspirationally. Cash, my friend, I need to tell you something, but it has to stay between us. I've heard whispers from some of the board members. They're saying this marriage proves O.J. can't be trusted, that he's been planning this all along to secure his position in the company. That's ridiculous, Cash protests immediately. O.J. isn't like that. He's the most genuine person I know. I know, Ian soothes, raising his hands peacefully. But perception is everything in this business. And the perception is that he manipulated a young, impressionable girl to guarantee his place at Golden Records. Fair or not, that's what they're saying. Cash's jaw tightens with frustration. So what happens now? Do they fire him? Do they fire all of us who work with him? This is insane. Ian pauses, as if weighing his words carefully. There might be a way to salvage this situation, but it would require someone with clean hands, someone the board trusts completely, to step up and take more responsibility. Someone like you. The implication hangs in the air like cigarette smoke. Ian continues, his voice soft and persuasive. If O.J. has to step back, even temporarily, the company needs strong leadership. You've proven yourself with the Velvet Moon album, with the Honey Divine sessions. The artists respect you. The board trusts you. You could be the bridge that holds everything together. Meanwhile, in Studio A, word of the crisis has reached the musicians and session players. Honey Divine, a statuesque black woman with an afro that frames her face like a golden halo, stops her vocal warm-ups when she hears the news. She's worked with O.J. for 3 years, considers him not just a producer, but a mentor who believed in her when no one else would. This is bullshit, she declares to her backup singers, her voice carrying the power that made her last single climb to number 3 on the R&B charts. O.J. gave all of us opportunities when other producers wouldn't even listen to our demos. Now they want to destroy him because he fell in love with a white woman? In 1975, for God's sake, not 1875. Her words echo the sentiment rippling through the building's creative community. The artists, engineers, and session musicians have all benefited from O.J.'s inclusive approach. His willingness to take chances on unconventional talent. They know that his success at Golden Records opened doors for countless others who looked like them. Back in the penthouse, the board members begin filing into the conference room adjacent to Desmond's office. Through the glass walls, O.J., Delia, and Desmond can see the familiar faces, old white men in expensive suits. Their expressions ranging from uncomfortable to openly hostile. These are the investors, the industry veterans, the gatekeepers who've controlled the music business for decades. Otis, Desmond says quietly, his voice heavy with resignation, I think you should leave. Let me handle this. No, O.J. replies firmly, I'm not running from this. If they have questions about my marriage, my motives, my fitness to lead this company, they can ask me directly. Delia stands beside her husband, her young face set with determination. And I'm staying too. This concerns me as much as anyone. Desmond looks at them, both his daughter and the man she chose to marry, and for a moment sees them not as a scandal to be managed, but as two people whose love has the strength to face whatever storm is coming. The boardroom of Golden Records resembles a courtroom more than a corporate meeting space. 12 men in dark suits sit around an oval mahogany table that gleams under the harsh fluorescent lights, their faces cast in shadows that make them appear more like judges than business partners. At the head of the table sits Harold Brennan, the eldest board member, a man in his 70s with steel gray hair and eyes like winter frost. He founded 3 record labels before Golden Records existed, and his opinion carries the weight of decades in the industry. Desmond enters first, followed by O.J. and Delia. The temperature in the room seems to drop 10 degrees as every eye turns toward them. O.J. maintains his composure, his shoulders squared, his expression calm and professional. But his hand finds Delia's and squeezes it gently. She lifts her chin with the same defiant grace she showed in her father's office, refusing to be intimidated by the wall of disapproval facing them. "Gentlemen," Desmond begins, his voice steady despite the circumstances. "I understand you've called this meeting to discuss recent developments. Before we begin, I want to make it clear that any personal matters concerning my family have no bearing on the business operations of Golden Records." Harold Brennan adjusts his wire-rimmed glasses and opens a manila folder filled with documents. "Desmond, with all due respect, when your senior vice president of A&R secretly marries your daughter, it becomes very much a business matter. It raises questions about judgment, about propriety, about conflicts of interest that could damage this company's reputation." "What conflicts of interest?" O.J. speaks for the first time, his deep voice carrying across the room. "My marriage to Delia doesn't change my qualifications, my track record, or my commitment to this company. In the past 18 months, I've delivered 12 gold albums, discovered 4 platinum artists, and increased our R&B division's profits by 300%. Board member Thomas Whitmore, a thin man with a pencil mustache, shuffles through his papers. "Mr. Johnson, your professional accomplishments are not in question. However, the circumstances of this marriage raise concerns about your motivations. A secret wedding? No announcement to the company, no discussion with Mr. White. It suggests deception at best, opportunism at worst." Delia's blue eyes flash with anger. "Opportunism? My husband is the most successful producer this company has ever employed. If anything, I'm the one who benefits from this marriage, not him. My dear." Harold Brennan's voice drips with condescension. "You're 23 years old. You've been sheltered from the realities of the music business, the kinds of men who see young women like yourself as stepping stones to power and wealth." The room erupts in murmurs of agreement, heads nodding around the table. O.J. feels the familiar weight of assumptions, the burden of proving his worth, not just as a professional, but as a human being worthy of love and respect. At that moment, the conference room door opens, and Ian Roth enters carrying a stack of files. His appearance is perfectly timed, not early enough to seem planned, not late enough to appear disrespectful. He nods apologetically to the board members. "Gentlemen, I apologize for the interruption. Mr. Brennan asked me to bring the quarterly artist development reports." Harold waves him forward. "Ian, since you're here, perhaps you could provide some insight into this situation. You work closely with Mr. Johnson, observe his daily operations. Have you noticed any changes in his behavior? Any indication that personal matters might be affecting his professional judgment?" Ian's face assumes an expression of careful consideration, as if he's wrestling with loyalty versus honesty. The performance is masterful. He appears reluctant to speak, protective of his colleague, but ultimately compelled by professional duty. "Well, sir, I wouldn't want to betray confidences, but there have been some concerns among the staff. Late arrivals, early departures, canceled meetings, and some of the artists have mentioned that O.J. seems distracted during sessions, less focused on their projects. It's a lie wrapped in plausibility, delivered with just the right amount of reluctance." O.J. stares at Ian in shock, unable to believe that the man he trusted, the man he mentored and promoted, would fabricate such accusations. "That's not true," O.J. says, his voice tight with controlled anger. "Ian, you know better than anyone that I've never missed a session, never compromised an artist's work for personal reasons." Ian spreads his hands apologetically. "I'm just reporting what I've observed, what others have mentioned. I'm sure there are reasonable explanations." Cash Morrison appears in the doorway, summoned by Ian's earlier suggestion that the board might want to hear from other department heads. He looks uncomfortable, his usually confident demeanor shaken by the formal atmosphere and the weight of expectations pressing down on him. "Cash?" Harold Brennan gestures to an empty chair. Please join us. We're discussing some concerns about leadership in the A&R department. As Senior Vice President, you work closely with Mr. Johnson. What's your assessment of the current situation? Cash glances around the room, his eyes meeting O.J. For a brief moment. The older man's expression is unreadable, but Cash can see the tension in his mentor's jaw, the way his hands grip the armrests of his chair. Mr. Johnson has been an excellent supervisor. Cash begins carefully. He's taught me everything I know about production, about working with artists, about the creative process. But, Harold prompts. Sensing hesitation, Cash looks at Ian, who nods encouragingly, then back at the board members. The weight of the moment presses down on him, his career, his future. Possibly the future of Golden Records itself hanging in the balance. But I have noticed some changes recently, Cash admits, his voice barely above a whisper. He's seemed preoccupied, less available for consultation. Some important decisions have been delayed, and a few artists have expressed concerns about whether their projects are receiving adequate attention. The words hit O.J. like bullets. This young man he'd nurtured, protected, and promoted like a son has just publicly questioned his competence and dedication. Around the table, board members nod sagely, their suspicions confirmed by what they perceive as objective testimony. Outside, thunder crashes across Manhattan, and rain begins pelting the windows with increasing intensity, as if the storm mirrors the tempest brewing inside the boardroom of Golden Records. The storm that began as distant thunder now unleashes its full fury on Manhattan. Rain lashes the windows of Golden Records with violent intensity, and lightning illuminates the darkening sky in stark, electric flashes. Inside the boardroom, the atmosphere has grown equally tempestuous. O.J. sits alone, now Desmond at the opposite end of the table. Delia relegated to a corner chair like a spectator at her own trial. The board members arranged around him like a tribunal of judgment. Harold Brennan removes his glasses and cleans them slowly, a gesture that commands attention and silence. In light of the testimony we've heard today, the board has serious concerns about Mr. Johnson's continued leadership of the A&R department. The marriage itself, while legal, demonstrates a troubling lack of judgment and professional boundaries. O.J. rises from his chair, his imposing frame casting a long shadow across the polished table. Gentlemen, I've given this company 5 years of my life, delivered unprecedented profits, and discovered more talent than any producer in Golden Records history. If you want to question my marriage, my personal choices, that's your prerogative. But don't you dare question my professional integrity. Thomas Whitmore shuffles his papers nervously. Mr. Johnson, no one disputes your past achievements. However, the music industry operates on trust, on reputation. Our distributors, our radio contacts, our advertising partners, they all expect a certain level of stability and conventional behavior from our executives. Conventional behavior, O.J. repeats, his voice heavy with bitter irony. In other words, a black man should know his place, should be grateful for the opportunities he's been given, and should never presume to reach beyond what others consider appropriate for his race. The accusation hangs in the air like smoke from a discharged gun. Several board members shift uncomfortably in their chairs, their faces flushing with indignation at having their motivations so directly challenged. This has nothing to do with race, Harold Brennan declares firmly. This is about judgment, about following proper protocols, about maintaining the professional standards that have made Golden Records successful. Delia suddenly stands, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade. Stop lying to yourselves. This is entirely about race, and everyone in this room knows it. If Otis were white, if he were some Harvard-educated trust fund baby, you'd be congratulating him on marrying the boss's daughter. You'd see it as smart networking, as building alliances. Young lady, Thomas Whitmore begins condescendingly, You're obviously emotionally invested in defending your husband, but I'm emotionally invested in defending the truth, Delia interrupts, her blue eyes blazing with fierce intelligence. My husband is the most talented producer in this industry. He's revolutionized our sound, discovered artists who've sold millions of records, and brought prestige to golden records that we never had before. But because he's black, because he dared to marry a white woman, you want to destroy everything he's built. Ian Roth, still positioned near the door like a helpful assistant, clears his throat deferentially. If I may, Mr. Brennan, perhaps there's a solution that protects everyone's interests. Mr. Johnson's talents are undeniable, but given the current circumstances, maybe he could take a temporary leave of absence. Let things cool down, allow the dust to settle. He pauses, his expression thoughtful and reasonable. In the meantime, Cash Morrison has proven himself capable of handling increased responsibilities. He could oversee the A&R department temporarily, maintain continuity for our artists and projects. Cash looks up sharply, his face flushing with embarrassment and confusion. I never asked for, I don't think... It makes sense, Harold Brennan muses, nodding slowly. Young Morrison is talented, well-regarded, and untainted by scandal. A temporary arrangement, you understand, Mr. Johnson. Just until the situation stabilizes. O.J. stares at Cash. This young man he's mentored and protected, waiting for him to object, to defend their partnership, to show some loyalty. But Cash remains silent, his eyes fixed on the table, unable or unwilling to meet his mentor's gaze. The betrayal cuts deeper than any corporate maneuvering, deeper than the board's prejudice or the industry's whispers. This is personal, intimate. The severing of a bond, O.J. thought was unbreakable. You want me to step aside? O.J. says quietly, his voice barely audible above the storm raging outside. To accept this temporary suspension while you promote the golden boy to take my place. It's not permanent. Desmond speaks for the first time in 20 minutes, his voice strained with conflict. Otis, you're like a son to me. This company wouldn't be what it is without your contributions. But right now, with everything that's happened, we need some breathing room. A son, O.J. laughs bitterly. A son you'd trust with your business but not with your daughter. A son you'd promote and praise but never quite accept as an equal. He walks to the window, staring out at the storm-darkened city below. 40 floors down, New York continues its relentless pulse taxis honking through flooded streets. People huddled under umbrellas, life proceeding with indifferent momentum. For a moment, he sees himself as others must see him. A middle-aged black man who reached too high, who forgot his place in the carefully maintained hierarchy of American success. I'll take your temporary leave, he says finally, not turning around. I'll step back from my duties, let Cash handle the department. But understand this, I'm not accepting guilt for falling in love with a woman who saw past the color of my skin to the content of my character. Delia crosses the room and slips her hand into his. Together they face the storm outside. Two figures silhouetted against the lightning-torn sky. Behind them, Ian Roth allows himself the smallest smile of satisfaction. Phase 1 complete. 3 weeks pass like a slow-motion nightmare. O.J. sits in his Greenwich Village apartment. A converted loft with exposed brick walls and floor-to-ceiling windows that normally flood the space with natural light. But today, heavy curtains block out the September sun, leaving the room in perpetual twilight. Empty whiskey bottles line the coffee table like fallen soldiers, and the air is thick with cigarette smoke and the stench of defeat. The apartment tells the story of a man unraveling. Gold records that once hung proudly on the walls now lean against baseboards, their frames cracked from careless handling. Stacks of demo tapes, sent by hopeful artists who still believe in O.J.'s golden touch, remain unopened on every surface. The phone rings constantly, journalists seeking interviews, artists pleading for meetings, industry colleagues offering hollow sympathy, but O.J., lets them all go to the answering machine. Delia moves through their home like a ghost, her once radiant beauty dimmed by exhaustion and worry. She's tried everything, cooking his favorite meals, playing his favorite records, suggesting walks through Washington Square Park. But O.J. remains locked in his spiral of rage and self-pity, drinking too much, sleeping too little, and staring at the television without really seeing the images that flicker across the screen. "Otis, please," she begs, sitting on the couch beside him, her hand reaching for his. "You have to shower, get dressed. Cash called, he wants to meet with you about the Honey Divine album." O.J. pulls his hand away, not looking at her. Cash can handle it. Isn't that what everyone wanted? The golden boy taking over, showing everyone how much better things run without the angry black man complicating everything? That's not fair, and you know it. Cash respects you, looks up to you. He's just trying to keep things together until you can come back. Come back to what? OJ finally turns to face her, and Delia is shocked by what she sees. His eyes are bloodshot and hollow, his beard unkempt, his skin ashen. "To a company that forced me out the moment I became inconvenient? To a board of directors who've been looking for an excuse to put me in my place since the day I walked through their doors?" Meanwhile, 40 blocks uptown, Golden Records buzzes with activity that feels forced and artificial. Cash sits in what used to be OJ's office, trying to fill shoes that seem impossibly large. The walls still display OJ's photos with legendary artists Stevie Wonder, Diana Ross, Marvin Gaye, their smiles now feeling like accusations. Cash has rearranged nothing, touched nothing, as if maintaining the office's original state might somehow bring his mentor back. Ian appears in the doorway, carrying a cup of coffee and wearing an expression of concerned friendship. Over the past 3 weeks, he's become Cash's closest confidant, the steady voice of reason helping the young executive navigate his new responsibilities. "How are you holding up?" Ian asks, settling into the chair across from Cash's desk. "I know this transition hasn't been easy." Cash rubs his temples, exhausted by the weight of expectations. "I keep waiting for OJ to walk through that door and tell me this has all been some elaborate test. 3 weeks, Ian. 3 weeks, and he won't return my calls, won't meet with me, won't even acknowledge that I'm trying to keep his department running. Maybe that's for the best." Ian suggests quietly, "I know it sounds harsh, but OJ isn't the same man he was before this scandal broke. The drinking, the isolation, the paranoia, maybe he needs this time to get his head straight." "Paranoia?" Cash looks up sharply. "What paranoia?" Ian hesitates, as if reluctant to share what he knows. "Well, I probably shouldn't say anything, but I've heard some disturbing stories. OJ calling the office at all hours, demanding to know who's been in his office, who's touching his files. He's become suspicious of everyone, convinced that people are plotting against him. The lies flow so smoothly that even Ian sometimes believes them himself. He's created an entire mythology of OJ's deterioration, feeding it to Cash bit by bit, shaping the younger man's perception with surgical precision. And then there's the situation with Delia," Ian continues, his voice dropping to a whisper of concern. "What situation?" Cash's attention sharpens immediately. He's always harbored feelings for Delia White, though he never acted on them out of respect for the family and, later, for OJ. "She's been coming to the building, Cash, late at night, when she thinks no one will see her. Margaret mentioned it, said she seemed upset, maybe even frightened. She's been asking questions about you, whether you're working late, whether you might have time to talk." Ian pauses, letting the implication settle in Cash's mind like sediment in still water. "I think she's reaching out for help, but she's afraid to be direct about it. A woman trapped in a marriage that's turning toxic, looking for someone she can trust, someone who knew her before all this ugliness began." Cash's heart pounds with a mixture of concern and something dangerously close to hope. "She asked about me specifically, several times. And Cash, I have to be honest, I'm worried about her safety." "Oh, Jays," drinking, his mood swings, his growing paranoia about perceived betrayals. It's a dangerous combination, especially for a young woman who represents everything he feels he's lost. The seed is planted expertly, watered with just enough truth to make it believable. Delia has indeed come to the building, desperate for information about her husband's projects, hoping to find some way to draw him back to the world of the living. But Ian has twisted her innocent questions into something sinister, transformed her concern into a cry for help that only Cash can answer. Outside OJ's apartment, autumn settles over Greenwich Village with unusual warmth. The leaves are just beginning to turn, splashing gold and crimson across the tree-lined streets. But inside the darkened loft, OJ sees none of it. He pours another whiskey and stares at the phone, wondering if anyone would answer if he called, wondering if anyone still believes in the man he used to be. That evening, as Manhattan's neon signs begin to flicker to life against the darkening sky, Cash finds himself standing outside O.J.'s apartment building in Greenwich Village. The autumn air carries the scent of fallen leaves and distant rain, and the narrow streets pulse with the energy of artists, musicians, and dreamers who call this neighborhood home. But Cash feels none of the usual magic, only a growing sense of dread that has been building since his conversation with Ian. He's been standing here for 20 minutes, rehearsing what he'll say, how he'll approach the man who was once his hero. The apartment windows glow softly 40 feet above, and occasionally he can see shadows moving behind the curtains. O.J. and Delia are up there, living out whatever private drama has consumed their marriage, while Cash stands on the sidewalk like a sentry guarding secrets he doesn't fully understand. Finally, he sees her. Delia emerges from the building's entrance, wrapped in a long coat against the evening chill, her honey blonde hair catching the streetlight as she walks quickly toward the corner. She looks fragile, younger than her 23 years, and when she glances back at the building with an expression of desperate sadness, Cash's heart clenches with protective instinct. "Delia," he calls softly, stepping out of the shadows. She startles, pressing her hand to her chest. "Cash, you scared me. What are you doing here?" "I could ask you the same thing. It's almost 10 o'clock, and you're walking alone through the village." Her laugh is hollow, brittle. "I needed air, space to think." The apartment feels like a tomb these days. She studies his face in the amber streetlight. "You look worried. Is everything all right at the office?" "That's what I came to ask you, Delia. I'm concerned about OJ. He won't return my calls, won't meet with the artists who depend on him. And I've heard." He pauses, choosing his words carefully. "Ian mentioned that you've been asking about me, about whether I'm working late. Are you trying to tell me something? Are you in some kind of trouble?" Delia's eyes widen with surprise, and something that might be relief. "You would help me? Even after everything that's happened? Everything people are saying about Otis and me? Of course I'd help you. Your family, Delia. Your father gave me my first break in this business, and OJ taught me everything I know about music. If you need anything, anything at all, you know you can trust me." For a moment, she looks as if she might collapse into his arms, might pour out all the pain and confusion of the past month. But instead, she straightens her shoulders and shakes her head. "I can't. It wouldn't be fair to drag you into this mess. You have your own career to think about. My career means nothing if the people I care about are suffering." Cash steps closer, his voice dropping to an intimate whisper. "Delia, talk to me. What's really happening up there?" She glances back at the apartment building, and her face crumples slightly. "He's destroying himself, Cash. The drinking, the anger, the way he looks at me sometimes like I'm the source of all his problems. He barely speaks to me anymore except to rage about betrayals and conspiracies. I feel like I'm watching the man I love disappear piece by piece. Has he hurt you?" The question emerges more forcefully than Cash intended, colored by weeks of Ian's carefully planted suggestions about OJ's deteriorating mental state. Delia shakes her head quickly. "Not physically, no. But emotionally. Cash, He accuses me of things that make no sense. He searches through my personal belongings, questions every phone call, every errand, every moment I'm not in his sight. Yesterday he found the business card you gave me months ago, just your office number, and he flew into a rage about secret communications. Cash feels his protective instincts flaring. Delia, that's not normal behavior, that's not the O.J. I know. That's what terrifies me, she whispers, tears beginning to track down her cheeks. The man I married is disappearing, being replaced by someone I don't recognize. Someone angry and suspicious and... She pauses, looking around nervously. Someone who talks about you constantly. About me? What does he say? He's convinced himself that you and I are having some kind of affair, that we're plotting against him, laughing at him behind his back. No matter how many times I deny it, no matter what I say, he just gets more convinced that we're lying to him. The streetlight above them flickers, casting wavering shadows across Delia's pale face. In the distance, the sound of jazz music drifts from an open window, melancholy and haunting. Delia, this is serious. If O.J. is having paranoid delusions, if he's drinking heavily and becoming obsessed with imaginary betrayals, you might not be safe. I know, she admits, her voice breaking. But I can't abandon him, Cash. He's sick, he needs help. If I leave now, it'll just confirm everything he believes about people abandoning him, about not being worthy of love. Cash reaches out instinctively and touches her arm, a gesture of comfort that will later be twisted into something sinister by Ian's poisonous interpretations. You're not responsible for fixing him, Delia. Sometimes loving someone means recognizing when they need professional help. At that moment, a window opens 4 floors above them, and they both look up to see O.J. silhouette framed in the apartment window. Even from this distance they can sense his intensity, the way he stares down at them with burning focus. He's watching, Delia whispers. Oh God. He's going to think. Go, Cash says urgently. Go back upstairs and try to calm him down. But Delia, if he becomes violent, if you feel unsafe for even a moment, you call me immediately. Promise me. She nods, pulling her coat tighter around herself. I promise. But Cash, please be careful. Whatever Ian has been telling you about Otis, whatever fears he's been feeding you, remember that the man you're afraid of used to be your mentor, your friend. Somewhere inside all that anger and suspicion, he's still there. As she hurries back toward the building entrance, Cash remains on the street corner, staring up at the window where O.J. silhouette has disappeared. The autumn wind picks up, scattering leaves across the pavement like scattered dreams, and Cash can't shake the feeling that he's just participated in a scene that will have terrible consequences for all of them. October arrives in New York with unseasonable warmth, as if the city refuses to surrender to autumn's chill. In his penthouse office, Desmond White stares at the quarterly reports that should bring him satisfaction. Golden Records is thriving, album sales up 30%. 3 artists climbing the Billboard charts, the Honey Divine project generating massive radio play. But success feels hollow when it comes at the cost of destroying the man who made it all possible. He picks up his phone and dials O.J.'s number for the 15th time in 3 days, listening to it ring endlessly before going to the answering machine. The voice that greets him is barely recognizable, slurred, hostile, a shell of the confident man who once commanded recording studios with quiet authority. Otis, it's Desmond again. Please call me back. We need to talk about your return to the company. The board is ready to discuss reinstating you to full duties. But you have to meet me halfway here, son. You have to. The machine cuts him off with a harsh beep. Desmond hangs up and walks to his window, watching the afternoon sun paint Manhattan in shades of gold and amber. Somewhere in this vast city, his daughter is trapped in a marriage that's become a prison, and the man he once considered a son is drowning in anger and whiskey. Meanwhile, in Studio C, Cash Morrison works with feverish intensity on Velvet Moon's follow-up album. The sultry singer stands behind the microphone, her voice weaving through a melody that should be pure magic, but Cash keeps stopping the session, demanding take after take, never quite satisfied with perfection. Cash, baby, what's wrong with you today? Velvet asks during a break, her dark eyes concerned. We've done that bridge 16 times, and it sounded beautiful on take 3. Cash runs his hands through his hair, leaving it disheveled and wild. He hasn't slept properly in weeks, haunted by images of Delia walking alone through dark streets, by Ian's whispered warnings about OJ's deteriorating mental state, by the growing weight of responsibilities he never wanted. I'm sorry, V, my head's not in the right space. Can we call it for today? As the musicians pack up their instruments, Ian appears in the studio doorway like a shadow given form. He's been omnipresent lately, always appearing at moments of maximum stress and confusion, offering support that somehow makes everything worse. Rough session? Ian asks with false sympathy. They're all rough sessions now, Cash admits. I keep thinking about what OJ would do, how he'd handle these arrangements, but I can't channel his instincts. I'm not him, Ian. I'm not sure I ever can be. Maybe that's the problem, Ian suggests quietly. You're trying to be someone else instead of trusting your own judgment. Oh, Jay's methods worked for OJ, but you have different strengths, different insights. He pauses, glancing around to ensure they're alone. Besides, given his current condition, maybe it's time to stop looking to him for guidance. I hate to say it, but the man who mentored you doesn't exist anymore. What exists now is something else. What do you mean? Ian's expression grows grave, troubled. Cash, I need to tell you something, but you have to promise me it stays between us. I've been keeping tabs on the situation, trying to protect everyone involved, and what I've discovered is deeply disturbing. Cash feels his pulse quicken. What kind of disturbing? Last night, I followed Delia when she left the building. I was worried about her safety, given some of the things I've heard about OJ's behavior. She went to that little cafe on Bleecker Street. You know the one? And Cash, she was crying. Not just upset sobbing like her heart was breaking. The image hits Cash like a physical blow. Sweet, innocent Delia, reduced to tears by the man who was supposed to protect and cherish her. I approached her, offered to help, and she told me something that chilled my blood. Ian continues, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. She said OJ has been accusing her of having affairs, of betraying him with other men. He searches through her things, follows her when she leaves the apartment, interrogates her about every phone call, every conversation. That's insane, Cash breathes. Delia would never. She loves him completely. Of course she would never. But OJ's paranoia has reached dangerous levels. And Cash, this is the part that really scares me. She mentioned your name specifically. She said OJ has become obsessed with the idea that you and she are having some kind of secret relationship. The words hit Cash like lightning, illuminating connections he hadn't seen before. Delia's late-night appearances at the building, her questions about his schedule, the way she'd looked at him on the street corner suddenly. It all takes on a sinister cast when filtered through the lens of a jealous, unhinged husband. He thinks Delia and I are. Cash can't even finish the sentence. More than that, Ian says grimly. I think he's planning to do something about it. Something violent. Cash, you need to stay away from both of them until this situation resolves itself. And if Delia tries to contact you, if she shows up at your apartment or calls you for help, you have to be very careful. Not because she's dangerous, but because helping her might be exactly the excuse O.J. needs to justify whatever he's planning. As if summoned by their conversation, the studio phone begins to ring. Cash and Ian stare at it for several moments before Cash finally answers. Golden Records, Studio C. Cash. The voice is barely recognizable, thick with alcohol and raw emotion. It's O.J. We need to talk. The line crackles with static and heavy breathing. Cash grips the phone tighter, his knuckles white against the black plastic. Behind the alcohol-slurred voice, he can hear the distant sound of jazz music playing. something melancholy and haunting that seems to underscore the desperation in O.J.'s words. "Oh, Jay, where are you? I sound drunk. Yeah, I know how I sound." O.J.'s laugh is bitter, hollow. "But my mind's clearer than it's been in weeks, Cash. Crystal fucking clear. I see everything now, the lies, the betrayals, the way everyone's been playing me for a fool." Ian moves closer, straining to hear the conversation. His face shows careful concern, but his eyes gleam with anticipation. This is the moment he's been orchestrating for months, the convergence of all his carefully planted seeds of doubt and suspicion. "Oh, Jay, talk to me. What's going on? Where's Delia?" Delia. The name comes out like a curse. "My beautiful, innocent wife. Do you know what she told me tonight, Cash? She told me she's been thinking about you, about your friendship, your deep conversations about music and life. She told me how much she admires your sensitivity, your understanding." Cash feels the blood drain from his face. "Oh, Jay, that's not whatever you're thinking. It's not like that. I care about Delia because she's family. Because she's your wife. Family. Oh." Jay's voice drops to a dangerous whisper. "You know what family does, Cash? Family doesn't lie. Family doesn't smile to your face while they're fucking your wife behind your back." Jesus Christ. "Oh, Jay, listen to yourself. You're talking crazy. I would never, Delia would never." "Never what? Never fall for the golden boy with the perfect smile and the perfect career? The young, handsome, successful man who doesn't carry the weight of 42 years, who doesn't have the scars of fighting for every opportunity in a racist industry." Through the phone, Cash can hear something breaking glass, shattering against a wall. The jazz music stops abruptly, replaced by an ominous silence. "I want to see you, O.J." Continues, his voice steadying into something more terrifying than rage, cold, calculated fury. "Tonight. The studio. Studio A, where we used to make magic together, remember? Before you decided you wanted everything I had. Oh, Jay, I'm not coming anywhere until you calm down and get some help. You're drunk, you're not thinking clearly. I'll be waiting for you, Cash. And if you don't show up, if you run away like the coward I now know you are, I'll come find you. And when I do, we'll settle this like men." The line goes dead. Cash stares at the phone in his trembling hand, while Ian places a supportive hand on his shoulder. "He's completely lost it," Ian says softly. "Cash, you can't go to that studio. In his current state, there's no telling what he might do. You need to call the police." "I can't call the police on O.J. He's not some stranger. He's my mentor, my friend. Maybe if I go there, if I talk to him face to face, I can get through to him. And maybe he'll kill you," Ian replies bluntly. "Cash, listen to me. A man consumed by jealousy and alcohol is capable of anything. O.J. has convinced himself that you've stolen his wife, destroyed his marriage, ruined his life. In his mind, eliminating you is the only way to restore order to his world." 20 blocks south, in the Greenwich Village apartment, Delia sits curled in a corner of the living room, her arms wrapped around her knees, watching her husband with growing terror. O.J. paces back and forth like a caged animal, talking to himself in a stream of consciousness monologue that reveals the depth of his psychological fracture. 5 years I gave them. 5 years of my life, my talent, my soul. And for what? So they could pat me on the head like a good dog. Tell me I was special, different from the others. But the moment I stepped out of line, the moment I dared to love someone they considered above my station." He stops pacing and looks directly at Delia, his eyes bloodshot and wild. "You hear that, baby? Above my station. That's what your father really thinks, what they all think. The black boy got too comfortable, forgot his place." "Otis, please," Delia whispers, her voice barely audible. "You're scaring me. This isn't who you are, isn't it?" He laughs harshly. "Maybe this is exactly who I am. Maybe all that success, all that respect, was just an illusion. Maybe I'm exactly what they always said I was, an angry black man who can't be trusted, who takes what doesn't belong to him. He moves toward her, and she shrinks deeper into the corner. For the first time since their marriage, Delia feels afraid of her husband, afraid of the stranger wearing his face. Tell me about Cash, Delia. Tell me about your conversations, your secret meetings, your plans for when I'm finally out of the picture. There are no secret meetings. Otis, you're imagining things that don't exist. I love you, only you. I've never betrayed you, never even thought about. Don't lie to me. His voice explodes through the apartment like a gunshot. I know what I know. Ian told me everything, how you've been asking about Cash's schedule, how you've been seen together, how you cry to him about your terrible husband who doesn't understand you. Delia's eyes widen with sudden understanding. Ian Roth? Otis, he's lying to you. He's poison, can't you see that? He wants to destroy us, destroy everything you've built. But OJ is already moving toward the door, grabbing his coat and keys. I'm going to settle this once and for all. And when it's over, when Cash Morrison is out of our lives forever, maybe we can start again. Maybe we can remember what we used to be. The door slams behind him with a finality that echoes through the apartment like a death knell. The Golden Records building stands like a monument against the midnight sky, its windows dark except for a single light glowing from Studio A on the 15th floor. The autumn wind whistles through the concrete canyons of Manhattan, carrying with it the distant sounds of traffic and sirens, the eternal symphony of a city that never sleeps. Cash arrives first, his hands shaking as he uses his keycard to enter the building. The lobby is tomb silent, his footsteps echoing off marble floors as he crosses to the elevator banks. Every rational part of his mind screams at him to turn around, to call the police, to avoid this confrontation that can only end in disaster. But loyalty runs deeper than logic, and despite everything, he still loves the man who taught him everything about music and life. The elevator rises through the darkened building, passing floor after floor of empty offices and silent studios where dreams are normally born. When the doors open on 15, Cash feels the weight of destiny pressing down on him. Studio A waits at the end of the hallway, its red recording light glowing like a malevolent eye. Inside the studio, OJ sits behind the mixing board, where he's created countless masterpieces. But tonight, the sophisticated equipment serves a different purpose: backdrop for a final confrontation between mentor and protege, between the man who gave everything and the one who inherited it all. The studio door opens with a soft pneumatic hiss, and Cash enters slowly, his hands raised peacefully. "Oh, Jay, I'm here. Let's talk about this like civilized men." Oh, Jay doesn't turn around immediately. He's staring at a framed photograph on the mixing board himself with Stevie Wonder, both of them laughing at some shared joke, the picture taken during the recording of what became a platinum album. His voice, when it comes, is eerily calm. "Do you remember when this was taken, Cash? 3 years ago, when everything seemed possible. When I believed that talent and hard work could overcome any obstacle, any prejudice." He finally turns, and Cash is shocked by his appearance. Oh, Jay. Eyes are sunken and wild, his face gaunt from weeks of drinking and sleepless nights, his once immaculate appearance reduced to wrinkled clothes and unkempt hair. "I remember," Cash says carefully, stepping further into the studio. "That was a great session. Stevie said you brought out the best in him, made him feel like he was discovering music for the first time. And now look at me." OJ's laugh is hollow and self-loathing, brought low by the oldest story in the book, the successful black man who forgot his place, who reached for something that was never meant to be his. "You're talking about Delia. I'm talking about everything." "Oh, Jay," explodes, spinning around in his chair. "The position, the respect, the beautiful white woman who made me believe I was more than just another gifted Negro who could make the white folks dance. It was all an illusion, Cash. All of it. Cash moves closer, his voice gentle and persuasive. "Oh, Jay, that's not true. You earned everything you have. Your talent, your success, your marriage. None of it was given to you as charity. You fought for it, worked for it, deserved it. Did I? Or did I just make it easy for men like Ian to destroy me when it became convenient?" OJ's eyes narrow with paranoid intensity. "He told me about you and Delia. About the secret meetings, the late-night conversations, the way she cries on your shoulder about her terrible husband. Ian is lying to you," Cash says with sudden urgency. "Can't you see that? He's been manipulating both of us, feeding you lies while convincing me you were becoming dangerous. He wants to destroy what we have, what we've built together. But OJ is beyond reason now, consumed by the poison Ian has been dripping into his mind for months. She told me herself, Cash. Tonight, before I came here, she told me how much she admires you, how different you are from me. Young, successful, untainted by the scars of being black in America. She was trying to make you jealous. She loves you, OJ. She's desperate to save your marriage, to bring you back from whatever hell you've been living in. Stop lying." OJ roars, lurching to his feet. In his hand, Cash notices for the first time, is a letter opener from the studio desk, 8 inches of sharp steel that glints under the track lighting. At that moment, the studio door opens again, and Ian enters with perfect timing, as if he's been waiting in the hallway for exactly this moment. His face shows carefully calculated shock at the scene before him. "My God, what's happening here? Cash, I told you not to come." "Oh, Jay, put down that knife before someone gets hurt. You." "Oh, Jay." Turns toward Ian, the letter opener trembling in his grip. "You've been feeding me information, haven't you? About Cash and Delia, about their affair, about how everyone's been laughing at me behind my back. I've been trying to protect you," Ian says with wounded dignity, "to help you see the truth about people you trusted. If that makes me the villain in your story, so be it." The 3 men form a triangle in the center of the studio, surrounded by the instruments and equipment that have created so much beauty over the years. But tonight, this temple of music will witness something far darker. The final act of a tragedy orchestrated by jealousy and prejudice, played out against the backdrop of an industry that creates dreams and destroys the dreamers with equal facility. Outside, storm clouds gather over Manhattan, promising rain before dawn. The storm breaks over Manhattan with sudden violence, rain lashing against the studio windows as lightning illuminates the 3 men frozen in their deadly tableau. Inside Studio A, the air crackles with tension more electric than the tempest outside. OJ stands at the center, the letter opener catching the track lights as his bloodshot eyes dart between Cash and Ian, trying to distinguish friend from enemy in his alcohol-clouded mind. "Protect me." OJ repeats Ian's words slowly, as if tasting them for poison. "By telling me my wife is having an affair with my protege? By convincing me that everyone I trusted has betrayed me?" Ian's expression remains perfectly composed, his voice steady and reasonable. "I told you what I observed, what others reported to me. If you choose to interpret that as betrayal rather than loyalty, that's your decision. But something in Ian's tone, too smooth, too practiced, triggers a memory in OJ's fragmenting consciousness. He remembers another conversation, weeks ago, when Ian had delivered similar observations about Cash's competence, about the board's concerns, about the whispered doubts throughout the company. "You, OJ," whispers, the letter opener beginning to shake in his grip. "It was you all along, wasn't it? You planted every doubt, every suspicion, every poisonous thought." Cash seizes the moment of clarity. "Yes. OJ, listen to me. Ian has been playing us against each other from the beginning. He wanted your position, wanted to destroy what we had together." Ian's mask slips for just an instant, revealing something cold and calculating beneath the surface. That's ridiculous. I've been nothing but loyal to both of you. If O.J. chooses to see enemies everywhere, that's a reflection of his deteriorating mental state, not my actions. Mental state. O.J. laughs bitterly, but there's a new sharpness in his eyes, a cutting through the fog of alcohol and rage. You've been very careful with your words, haven't you, Ian? Never quite lying, just shading the truth, letting me draw my own conclusions. Lightning flashes outside, and in that brilliant instant, O.J. sees everything with startling clarity. The carefully timed conversations, the strategic revelation of evidence, the way Ian always appeared at moments of maximum vulnerability with exactly the right words to deepen every wound. The marriage certificate. O.J. says suddenly. You said you saw it through a friend at City Hall, but Rodney White told his father about my marriage. How did Rodney know unless someone told him? Ian's composure finally cracks, his face flushing with anger at being questioned. You're grasping at straws. O.J. looking for someone else to blame for the mess you've made of your life. Am I? O.J. takes a step closer, the letter opener now pointed directly at Ian. Or am I finally seeing the puppet master who's been pulling all our strings? Cash moves carefully around the perimeter of the confrontation, trying to position himself between the two men. O.J. Even if Ian manipulated the situation, even if he lied to both of us, this isn't the way to handle it. Put down the knife. Let's call the police. Let them sort this out. But O.J. isn't listening to Cash anymore. His entire focus has narrowed to Ian, to the man who systematically destroyed everything he'd built over 5 years of blood, sweat, and musical genius. Why? O.J.'s voice drops to barely above a whisper, but it carries the weight of absolute fury. Why wasn't it enough for you to be my right hand, my trusted lieutenant? Why did you need to destroy me completely? For the first time since entering the studio, Ian's mask falls away entirely, revealing the naked hatred and resentment that has been festering for years. Because you were never supposed to be there in the first place. A black man in a white man's position, taking opportunities that should have gone to people who understood the industry, who belonged in those boardrooms. The words hang in the air like smoke from a discharged gun. Even Cash recoils at the venom in Ian's voice, the pure racial hatred that has been hiding behind 12 years of false friendship and professional courtesy. And Delia? O.J. continues, his voice steady now, deadly calm. What was my wife to you? Another way to hurt me? Or just collateral damage in your campaign to put me in my place? Ian straightens, his pale face twisted with contempt. Your wife is a naive little girl who convinced herself she was in love with the exotic, dangerous black man. But deep down, she knows what everyone knows, that you're not good enough for her. That you never were. The letter opener trembles in O.J.'s hand. As every word finds its target, each syllable designed to inflict maximum psychological damage. But instead of flying into a rage, O.J. does something unexpected. He starts to laugh. You know what's funny, Ian? You spent so much time and energy trying to prove I didn't deserve what I had, but you just proved the opposite. You had to orchestrate this elaborate scheme, manipulate dozens of people, destroy relationships and careers, just to bring down one black man. If I was really as inferior as you believe, why did it take so much effort? The truth in those words hits Ian like a physical blow, and his face contorts with fury at having his deepest motivations exposed. The laughter dies in O.J.'s throat as Ian's expression transforms into something purely malevolent. The carefully constructed facade of the loyal assistant, the concerned colleague, the helpful friend, all of it crumbles away, leaving only the raw hatred that has been burning inside Ian Roth for 12 years. You want to know why it took so much effort? Ian snarls, his voice rising above the storm raging outside. Because you people are like cockroaches, you infest everything, multiply beyond control, take over spaces that were never meant for you. Sometimes it takes patience, planning, and precision to restore the natural order. Cash stares in horror at this man he thought he knew. This person who had seemed so reasonable, so supportive during O.J. absence. Jesus Christ, Ian. You're talking like what? Like someone who built his entire career in this industry only to watch it get handed over to affirmative action hires and diversity initiatives? Ian's composure is completely shattered now. Years of carefully suppressed resentment pouring out in a toxic flood. I started in the mailroom of Golden Records when O.J. was still playing dive bars in Brooklyn. I earned every promotion, every opportunity, every ounce of respect. But the moment the industry decided it needed to look progressive, suddenly my experience meant nothing. O.J. listens to this confession with growing amazement. You think I got my position because I'm black? Ian, I produced more hits in my first year than you did in 5. I discovered artists who made this company millions of dollars. I revolutionized our entire sound. With my help, Ian screams, spittle flying from his lips. With my connections, my industry knowledge, my strategic planning. You were the face they put on the albums, but I was the brain behind the operation. And what did I get for it? To watch you marry the boss's daughter while I stayed in the shadows? Invisible and unappreciated. The letter opener in O.J.'s hand begins to lower, as the full scope of Ian's orchestration becomes clear. This wasn't just professional jealousy or personal ambition, this was systematic racial hatred disguised as mentorship and friendship. The artists, O.J. says with dawning horror. The session musicians, the backup singers you've been telling them, I was unstable, unreliable. You've been poisoning every relationship I built in this industry. Ian's smile is cold and satisfied. They were so eager to believe it. The temperamental black producer, the angry man who couldn't handle success, who turned to alcohol when the pressure got too intense. It was almost too easy. At that moment, the studio door bursts open and Delia rushes in, her hair soaked from the storm, her face wild with desperation. She's followed closely by Desmond White, whose expression shows a mixture of fear and determination. Otis, thank God, Delia cries, running toward her husband. I've been looking everywhere for you. When you left the apartment, I was terrified of what you might do. She stops short when she sees the letter opener in his hand. The three men arranged in their tense triangle of confrontation. What's happening here? Why do you have that knife? Desmond takes in the scene with the sharp eyes of a man who survived 30 years in the cutthroat music business. Gentlemen, whatever this is about, let's resolve it like civilized people. Ian, what are you doing here so late? Trying to prevent a tragedy, Ian replies smoothly, his mask sliding back into place with practiced ease. O.J. called Cash here tonight, threatened him with violence. I came to try to defuse the situation, but as you can see, his mental state has deteriorated beyond reason. But O.J. is no longer listening to Ian's lies. His attention is focused entirely on Delia, on the woman whose love has been the one pure thing in his increasingly chaotic world. Baby, he says softly, lowering the letter opener completely. Tell me the truth. Have you been meeting with Cash? Have you been crying to him about our marriage? About how unhappy I make you? Delia looks between the three men, confusion and fear warring in her blue eyes. I've talked to Cash a few times when I came to the building looking for you. I was worried about you, about us. I asked him if he knew how to help, how to bring you back from whatever darkness you've been living in. And that's all? Oh. Jay's voice is barely audible above the thunder outside. That's all. I swear to you. Otis. I love you. Only you. I would never betray you. Never even think about betraying you. The letter opener falls from O.J.'s nerveless fingers, clattering onto the studio floor. In that moment, the full weight of his actions, his suspicions, his willingness to believe the worst about the people who loved him, crashes down like a physical blow. What have I done? He whispers, staring at his hands as if they belong to a stranger. What have I become? Ian sees his carefully constructed plan unraveling and makes one final desperate play. He's lying, Mr. White. O.J. has been threatening your daughter, terrorizing her for weeks. Look at her, she's afraid to be in the same room with him. But Desmond is studying his daughter's face, seeing not fear of her husband, but desperate love for a man who's been systematically destroyed by lies and manipulation. The truth hangs in the studio air like smoke, visible to everyone except the man who orchestrated the lies. Ian realizes his deception is crumbling and becomes desperate, his carefully controlled demeanor finally shattering completely. You're all fools. Ian spits, backing toward the studio door. O.J. is exactly what I said he was, an unstable, violent man who doesn't belong in civilized society. Look at him. Look what he became when the pressure got too intense. But Desmond steps forward, his voice carrying the authority of 30 years in the music business. No, Ian. Look what you made him become. I've been watching, listening, putting pieces together. Every rumor, every doubt, every poisonous whisper, they all trace back to you. Cash finds his voice, anger replacing the confusion and fear. He told me you were becoming paranoid, O.J. He said you were dangerous, that Delia was afraid of you. He convinced me you were losing your mind while he convinced you I was stealing your wife. Classic manipulation. Desmond continues, his executive mind analyzing the strategy with cold precision. Divide and conquer. Turn allies against each other while positioning yourself as the reasonable voice in the chaos. How long have you been planning this, Ian? Since the day I promoted O.J. over you? Ian's back hits the studio door, his escape route blocked by his own hubris. You want to know how long? 12 years. 12 years of watching this company hire and promote people based on their skin color instead of their qualifications. 12 years of seeing my ideas attributed to others, my contributions ignored. Your contributions? O.J.'s voice is steady now, the fog of alcohol and rage finally lifting. Ian, I gave you credit on every album, every successful project. Your name is on half the records in this building. As an assistant, as a subordinate, never as the creative force, never as the visionary. Ian's voice cracks with years of accumulated bitterness. But that wasn't enough for you people, was it? You had to take everything, the top position, the respect, the boss's daughter. Delia moves closer to her husband, taking his hand in hers. Otis, don't listen to him anymore, can't you see? This man has spent months systematically destroying our marriage, your career, your self-respect. He fed you poison drop by drop until you almost became the monster he wanted you to be. The words hit O.J. like a revelation. He stares at Ian with new eyes, seeing not the helpful colleague and trusted friend but the architect of his destruction. You wanted me to hurt her, didn't you? You wanted me to become violent, to prove that every racist stereotype was true. I wanted you to show your true nature. Ian snarls, his mask completely discarded now. And you did, didn't you? The moment things got difficult, you turned to alcohol and violence, just like they always do. Just like we always knew you would. Cash steps forward, his fists clenched. You sick bastard. You nearly destroyed 3 lives, just to satisfy your own prejudice and ambition. But Ian isn't finished. In his desperation, he makes one final play, reaching into his jacket and pulling out a small tape recorder. You want to know the truth? I have it all here. Hours of recordings O.J. threatening violence, talking about killing Cash, raging about his unfaithful wife. The police will find this very interesting, especially when combined with tonight's events. The studio falls silent except for the storm raging outside. Ian's finger hovers over the play button, his last weapon in a war he's already lost. Go ahead, O.J. says quietly. Play your recordings. Let everyone hear what you drove me to become. But also let them hear the truth that every word of rage, every threat, every moment of madness was fed to me by you. The courts won't see it that way, Ian sneers. They'll see a violent black man who threatened his colleagues and terrorized his young white wife. Your career, your marriage, your freedom, all of it ends tonight. But as Ian's finger moves toward the play button, Delia steps forward with sudden determination. Actually, Ian, I think they'll be more interested in this. She holds up her own small recording device, and Ian's face goes white. I've been recording everything you just said. Every confession, every racist slur, every admission of manipulation. 12 years of planning to destroy my husband, all laid out in your own words. Ian stares at the device in her hand, his carefully constructed world crumbling around him. You can't. That's entrapment. It's illegal. It's justice, Desmond says firmly, moving to stand beside his daughter and son-in-law. Ian Roth, as of this moment, you're terminated from Golden Records. Security will escort you from the building, and if you ever set foot on these premises again, I'll have you arrested for trespassing. Ian looks around the studio wildly, searching for any ally, any escape, any final card to play. But he finds only the faces of people whose lives he tried to destroy, united now in their recognition of his true nature. This isn't over, he whispers, his voice barely audible above the thunder outside. You think you've won, but people will always see you for what you really are. All of you. And what are we? O.J. asks, his arm around his wife's shoulders, standing tall despite everything Ian has put him through. Ian's smile is cold and empty as he reaches for the studio door handle. Exactly what I always said you were. The door slams behind him with a finality that echoes through the studio like the last note of a tragic symphony.